The engine of the old Buick purred as Eleanor pulled into the grocery store parking lot, her gloved hands steady on the wheel. She parked with precision between the lines, turned off the ignition, and adjusted the silk scarf tied beneath her chin. At 92, Eleanor moved a bit slower than she once did, but her mind was sharp, her posture upright, and her steps, though careful, were confident. As she walked through the automatic doors, the cashier waved. "Morning, Miss Eleanor. You still drive better than half the folks around here." Eleanor laughed. "Comes with practice. I've had my license since 1949. That's longer than you've been alive." She picked up a basket and began her routine, fresh produce first, then pantry staples, and finally a small treat, dark chocolate, 85% cocoa. She never missed a week. She never rushed. And she hadn't had so much as a cold in 3 decades. People often asked her how she did it, how she stayed so healthy, so capable, and so mentally present. There was no single answer, Eleanor would say, but rather a series of simple habits, 5 to be exact. Not secrets, just choices she made every day, long before people talked about lifestyle hacks and biohacking on the internet. The first habit was what she called daily motion. Eleanor never called it exercise. She didn't like the way that word made people think of sweat and pain. For her, movement was a form of gratitude. Every morning since her 40s, she'd stretch at the foot of her bed, then walk outside, regardless of the weather. Rain, snow, or sun, she would do at least 30 minutes around the neighborhood, sometimes more. It wasn't power walking, and it wasn't slow shuffling either. It was purposeful, smooth, and filled with observation. She'd learned to listen to her body early on. Keep it moving, and it wouldn't rust. Her second habit was more unconventional, fasting. Not starving, just giving her body time to rest. Eleanor ate all her meals between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Long before the term intermittent fasting became a trend, she developed the pattern simply because it made her feel lighter and more focused. "The body needs time off," she always said. "We don't run the washing machine 24 hours a day. Why should digestion be any different?" Breakfast was usually light, oatmeal with berries or eggs with greens. Lunch, her main meal, was built around vegetables and a portion of protein. Dinner was a small salad or soup, and always, a cup of herbal tea before bed. The third habit was what she called mind hygiene. Just as she brushed her teeth, she cleaned her mind each day. She didn't own a television, hadn't in years. Instead, she read, not just novels, but newspapers, essays, letters from pen pals across the country. She kept a journal where she wrote 3 pages each morning, grievances, joys, odd dreams, and occasional poetry. And every night she'd end her day listing 5 things she was grateful for. This habit, she believed, was more powerful than any pill. "Stress," she said once to a neighbor, "is the real poison. I've buried a husband, lost friends, and seen the world change in ways I never imagined. But I've never let worry take up residence in my head." The fourth habit was rooted in her garden. Eleanor grew her own herbs, leafy greens, and seasonal vegetables in the raised beds outside her home. Even in winter, she kept pots of rosemary, thyme, and mint on the kitchen windowsill. She believed deeply in the connection between soil and soul. "I know what goes into my food," she told anyone who asked, "and I know what stays out." She avoided processed foods, cooked from scratch, and never skipped meals for convenience. Garlic, onions, turmeric, and ginger were daily staples. She didn't follow trends. No keto, no gluten-free unless it made sense. Just balance, color, and whole ingredients. Her fifth and most important habit was staying useful. Eleanor never saw retirement as the end of her purpose. She still volunteered at the local library twice a week, organized the town's historical archives, and wrote letters to soldiers overseas with her church group. She taught young mothers how to sew, helped kids with their reading, and sent birthday cards to everyone in her address book. "Idle hands make a sick body," she often said. "We were made to create, to serve, to connect. That's the only way to stay truly alive." When asked how she'd managed to avoid getting sick for 30 years, not even a bout of the flu, she would smile and say, "I respect my body, and I listen to it. Most people wait until they're falling apart to pay attention. I've been tuning in since the 70s. That afternoon, as she returned home from the store, Eleanor unpacked her groceries slowly, humming an old Ella Fitzgerald tune. She brewed her tea, watered her herbs, and sat down with her outside. Kids played on bicycles, and a neighbor mowed his lawn. Inside, the house was quiet but alive with routine, with the subtle rhythm of a long, well-lived life. A calendar hung on the wall beside her desk. Every day had a check mark next to it, proof that she had shown up again, fully, mind and body. And tomorrow, like today, she would rise at dawn, stretch, walk outside, and begin again. 92 years old and still behind the wheel of her car, of her life, and of her remarkable, unshakable health.